Today what we're going to go through is basically my view in how we can use our everyday life experiences to use those to overcome them in a way to redefine the meaning that we attach to different things and how we perceive the world, so we can use our everyday experiences to help us on the trajectory for becoming better creators and master manifestors at the end of the day. Because this is all a journey. You don't necessarily become a master overnight, right? It's about identifying what we can utilize in our everyday reality to create like a navigation system for us. Because if we're in our apartment, in our house, working on a daily basis, and we have this idea in our mind for wanting to create more, wanting to manifest what we want in our life, it can be really difficult when you don't know how to create reference points for getting there. You know, like you need a bit of a compass and a navigation system to guide you along the way, and you need to know how to utilize your everyday experiences to continue to recalibrate yourself and align yourself to the path that you truly want to be on. Because, you know, the reality is that in this earth realm, we are living within a matrix type system, okay? And there's a lot of, there is no negative or positive really. There is polarity, but there's no positive meaning or negative meaning behind anything. It's just, it is what it is. But there are a lot of influences that can affect us when going about our daily lives. You know, things that can really drag our energy down and disorientate us in the path and the pursuit of creating what we want in the world. So I'm going to start with how we actually, what we need to understand is the process and how we perceive information and how we receive information into our mind-body-spirit complex, okay? Because everything is energy and information is carried through energy when we are going about our everyday life. So if we don't understand how we personally receive and process information, then we cannot manifest, because manifestation and creation is about the mastery of channeling our energy in the direction of what we want to create and redefining the meaning associated with all of the different downloads or information that we're consuming on a daily basis. Now, information can transport to us and through us in many different factors. Like all I'm doing right now is just transferring information to you. When you go out in the sun, in the environment, you're processing information from the sun. That is light energy coming and interacting with your mind-body-spirit complex. It's helping you heal, it's helping you grow, it's helping you evolve. Like the sun energizes you. When you are talking with anyone else in your everyday life, you are essentially processing their information that they're passing on to you verbally and energetically. When you are interacting with anything in nature, plants, trees, whether it's organic or artificially created, all of that is just passing information to you. And you can understand this because you can perceive it. And if you can perceive it, then know that the way that you perceive it is by processing the information that's being delivered to you from that object, right? Through your eyes, through your skin, through your receptors all around your body. And what that's doing is it's entangling with your DNA, right? So the best way to look at this and to understand life when you're trying to evolve is that you are here on Earth. Let's call this Earth. And then say you've got the sun, right? And the sun is a transmitter of information. We already said that. It's full of energy and it's transmitting information to you. So what it's actually doing is, as you receive that information, the main thing that you're receiving and perceiving when you're doing so is it's always interacting with your DNA. So what happens is, like, we've been taught throughout our lives that essentially when we receive information, our mind is the only tool that we can utilize to master our understanding and our perception of things, you know? And it's like the more trained your mind is, the smarter you can get, the more intelligent you can become, and that's how you appropriately navigate through life. But what we need to understand is that what is actually happening as the light or anything comes into your environment, it activates and entangles and enmeshes with your DNA structure, which is wired through you and in you all throughout your body. The reason why this is important to know is that we all have a different genetic and DNA structure within us, okay? And as we continue to get more intelligent, more conscious, more of our DNA starts to activate within us. In other words, it's making us more capable and more able as human beings, as quantum creators in this reality. So the reason why this is amazing is because when you came into this realm, into Earth, your DNA is wired in the most magnificent manner, and it's wired in a way where it's like a computer program where when you are living out your experiences here in this Earth realm, what's happening is all of the information that you're perceiving is then entangling with your unique subset of DNA, and then that's giving you many like awakenings or triggers within your environment to allow you to learn from those experiences, which can then align you to your highest path in life, because this Earth School is all about learning and basically mastering the lessons that we came here to learn. And if you want to manifest things, well, the first component of it is learning the lessons that we need to, so we can continue to awaken and become more powerful in our creations in life. So the best way to look at phase one of manifestation, or like this concept that I'm teaching you now, it's to know that everything in your reality is there to basically like trigger you or teach you something, okay? So for example, say you have an argument with a girlfriend, or you have an argument with a parent, or you have a disagreement with a friend, or you look out into the world outside of your window and you see like a fight happening, or anything that you can think of. You might open up your laptop screen and you go to your accounts in the bank and you're like, fuck, I barely have enough for this month's rent, right? All triggers, all opportunities to learn, because what does that do? As human beings, we are emotional beings. So when we interact with information that we perceive in our reality, then it triggers an emotion within us. It brings the emotion up within our system, and if we don't like the emotion, then it's an indication that we have a limitation, essentially, right? Because we run on emotions, we run on energy. And when we are navigating through life, if we want to create things in our reality, if we want to manifest money, abundance, like a thriving relationship, a really healthy and fit body, it all comes down to your ability to channel and utilize and work with your emotions in your system. So when you are doing this and when you are going about this in your everyday life, know that as you continue to master your ability to understand and process through your emotions, it's all about overcoming and transmuting the lower level emotions, or like the really dense emotions, things like fear, anxiety, stress. If we're judging others in our environment, if we're casting a judgment on them, then it's a reflection that we're judging that aspect of them within ourselves, right? Everything is a mirror in our reality, and it's just mirroring back to us what we need to work on and process through. It's the most amazing school, really, and it's so amazingly designed, because when you grasp this concept, you no longer just walk through life without meaning. You no longer just go through life thinking that everything is a coincidence and it just happens randomly. Not at all. Everything is meticulously designed to present you with the most appropriate opportunities for you to process that information from that perception, to then allow some sort of emotion or a feeling or a thought to come up within your mind, body, spirit complex. And as you do that, you get to decide whether you want to keep that thought, keep that emotion, or not. And this is really where society separates. And I covered this on the last part 1 of this series, which is essentially understanding that 95% of the population are merely spectators. They're playing the victim in life. They are navigating and walking through their everyday life thinking that everything happens to them and that they are susceptible to their environment. And, you know, like if there's no money in the account, then they're like, oh, woe is me. I suck dick. I can't do anything about this. You know, I'm susceptible to my environment. And, oh, if I'm having a fight in my relationship, then it's the other person that did it to me. And, you know, I have nothing to do with that. Like, I didn't create that. But, you know, there's another 5% of the population that views themselves as an active game player. They're actively participating and playing in this Earth game, in this Earth school, and they're taking ownership of everything that happens because they know that their internal reality creates their external reality. The reason why this is so powerful in really awakening your creative abilities, your manifestation abilities, is that principle number 1, right, that I mentioned in last video, we have to master our energy, our internal state. And the way we do that, you know, we can go through the process and all the things that I covered in the previous video, but this is a more subtle and a bit more of an advanced one, is this is literally how I live my life, right? Every opportunity that I interact with or every experience that I have, I know I have an opportunity to learn. And oftentimes when we're just beginning to awaken to this reality and start to step into the game, the arena of life as a player, and take ownership for how we feel, every thought we think, every feeling we feel, we're taking ownership for the energy we emit to others, then what you start to do is you'll find that you're becoming more in tune with energy. You're becoming better at understanding energy, and you're becoming more susceptible in a way to emotions because you're more in tune with them. You know, in the first phase of life, I covered the phase 1 and phase 2 in last video. So if you're unaware about that concept, make sure to look back at the recording. But what happens is in phase 1, especially as men, we're more logically minded. And we've been taught to suppress our emotions. In other words, we've been taught to not be receptive to energy, to not understand energy and how it works and how our body is designed and run on fucking energy and emotion. So when we do that, we become so ignorant to emotions and like what they mean and how we can harness them to maximize our personal power in life. But as we step into the arena as the player, we know that in order to effectively manifest and create anything in this lifetime, we have to become masters of our emotions. In other words, we have to become masterful at redirecting the emotional flow. We have to master our ability to take and feel into emotions that we do not really like or resonate with. And we have to become very equipped at integrating them and transmuting them into higher states of being, into higher emotional states. And this also goes for our thoughts. You know, if we have a negative thought that plonks in our mind, this can be in relation to anything, but the most common ones are always going to be self-doubt, self-criticism. They're going to dampen your confidence. They're going to reduce your personal power in life. And when we can take charge of those and redirect them in a way that's very pure and very aligned to us, then that is really how we start rising in our level of self-mastery in our life. But it all comes down to starting with this key principle of everything that you experience in your reality. Take note of the thoughts that you're thinking, the judgments that you're holding in your mind, the emotions that are coming up within your system, because as I mentioned in phase 1, we ignore those things. We're like, oh, that's just a negative thought. That's just a bad feeling. Like whatever, like I'll just go numb myself out. I'll go on social media. I'll watch porn. I'll drink alcohol. I'll take drugs. I'll go buy shit online. I'll go do something else to distract myself from the feeling because it doesn't feel good. And as you become more susceptible, you're gonna have a lot more emotions start to come up within your system as you step into the game as a player, because you're more receptive. And when you're more receptive, it's so critical that you take the time out of your day to process what is coming up for you. So know that what is happening in every experience that you have in your life, and we're about to move on, but as you experience absolutely everything in your life. What is happening is information is coming in and it's entangling with your DNA. And based on your genetic wiring, based on your past life experiences through thousands of lifetimes, or most of you probably hundreds to thousands of lifetimes, and that through your lifetimes, you've basically created karma, which is essentially an energy that you create based on a reaction or response or an action that you took, throughout your life. And if you're into the spiritual stuff, then through past lives as well. And what that does, karma then is carried with you throughout your life and lifetimes until you resolve that lesson. For example, say that I go and punch someone in the face. Well, because that's not the most purest aligned action that I could take, right? It's not the most loving action, then it's going to naturally create karma, which is I'm now holding on to that energy of like violence and hate and maybe even guilt that came up within me for hurting another person. And that's going to carry with me until I resolve that lesson, until I, number one, apologize to that person, and number two, forgive myself for doing that act. And that then dismantles the energy. But until we learn from the lessons and learn from what we've done, the karma is carried with us throughout our life, and it will continue to show up in other places as experiences until we learn the fucking lesson, right? That's all the lessons are about. It's about overcoming our past, our karmas and our actions so we can learn more about ourselves and become more wise. Because, we can't learn if we don't experience. And that's why experiencing life, that's the key. You can sit behind your laptop all day, but it's about engaging with life. It's about interacting with the world to allow things to come up for you that you can then try to understand at a deeper level and learn from. And as you continue to do this, it's like you climb the ladder in your creative abilities, in your ability to create and manifest in the world. Because say that you're starting, maybe you're a spectator and you're starting down here, right? It's like level 1. Commence game. And then you are like, okay, I've learnt the level 1 lesson. Now I climb the staircase and now I'm on level 2. And like level 2 might be like a little bit more nuanced, and you have to pay more attention. You have to be more conscious and present to get the lesson. You might have a fight with your missus, and then in order to overcome that lesson, it's like, okay, can you forgive that person for doing something to you? And can you forgive yourself for whatever the fuck you've done, right? And it's like, okay, if you can, proceed to level 3. Now, as you continue to learn more lessons, what you're doing is you're reclaiming your power. You're reclaiming your creative essence, the truth of who you are. You're getting closer to your true self. And as you do that, as you continue to resolve these lessons and overcome, you eventually skyrocket in your level of creative power, where you're now given more power because you're more trustworthy with that power, right? Because if you're someone down at level 1, why is the universe, the creator, God, however you perceive the bigger presence in our universe, why are you going to be delivered more power to do wrong with, right? Because at this level, yes, you can take the path of like the dark side, right? And you can sell your soul off to the negatively oriented entities, and you can have a bunch of power no matter how wise you are, right? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about self-mastery, where you don't need to go sell your soul to anyone or any entity, where you're just reclaiming your power and you're becoming more light-like. You're becoming more of a master within yourself. And the way to do it, the way to reclaim confidence, power, certainty in yourself, is to continue to resolve conflicts, emotions, negatively oriented thoughts, and continue to rise through the levels. And by doing so at each level, when you resolve a lesson, you activate more DNA within your system. Because at this present point in time, I'll show you this. as the modern human being, our DNA has been tampered with throughout time. And I'm not going to get into that right now because it's going to just probably mindfuck too many people on this call right now. But what happens, and that's not a discredit to you, it's just purely we're already covering a lot. But what happens is as you advance in the lessons, more light starts to come in to enmesh with your DNA. It's like a computer program, as I already mentioned. And as you learn the lesson, you complete that level, well, more DNA activates within your system. And what happens is, as modern human beings, we are currently operating at around 20 to 30% DNA activation. Now, DNA is what everything runs on. It stores all information and all of your superpowers and your ability to enhance your power and create whatever you want and manifest whatever you want in the world. It's all stored within your DNA. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, it's a great challenge and opportunity for us to master ourselves, but we're only operating at around 30%. But as we continue to do the internal work, the emotional and mental mastery, then we start to increase the amount of DNA that is activated within our system, which then gives us more superpowers and greater intelligence, higher levels of consciousness, greater ability to manifest whatever we want in this world. But first, before we get there, we have to undo or release all the gunk, all the dense energy from within us. So in regards to manifestation, phase 1 that I covered last week was all about the active things that you can do, and this is a more advanced version of that.